You all came highly recommended. You know the rules. No real names, no backstories, no cell phones.
So whose kid is she?
A very wealthy man who's about to be $50 million poorer.
I'm here to make sure you're safe.
What's your name? Mine's Abigail.
You can call me Joey.
Do you have any kids?
I have a little boy.
See you in 24 hours.
Do you know what a pinky promise is? If you behave and do as we say, I pinky promise you, it'll all be over soon.
Joey,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about what's gonna happen to you.
What the fuck?
Shit, we gotta get out of here.
I think she knows something.
Guys. Guys.
What the fuck is that thing?
We kidnapped a fucking vampire. A ballerina vampire. Okay, how do we kill a vampire?
What are we talking about? Like an Anne Rice or a True Blood? You know, Twilight? Stake through the heart.
Daylight is a big one.
All right, let's go kill us a fucking vampire. Ready?
Welcome back, Patreon listeners. This week, Nick and I decided to head back to the movies, as we are wont to do.
Yes, I think we also should mention that this one is going to be on us, Patreon, because we usually would be saying Patreon members, but this is going to be for everybody.
True. This week we're going to talk about Abigail, but because we saw a couple of movies this week, we saw Boy Kills World, which is over for paid Patreon subscribers. We decided to put out Abigail.
Give you guys a little taste of what we
bonus.
get up to on the Patreons.
So this is the radical format that we use for our Patreons, where Nick and I discuss a movie we just saw. So with our Regal Unlimited passes in hand, we headed down to the theater to see what I'm told is probably going to be the last vampire movie for a while, because I don't think it did.
Told, or just is that going to be like it's been my experience that when movies like this fail for a minute, like we're not going to see.
That seems to be that was the consensus I saw, and maybe hopefully that's not true. So Abigail, ballerina vampire movie, great fucking posters, you've seen them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Cost nearly $30 million, we're told. And consequently has a hard road to hoe as far as getting back to profitability. I'm hoping that doesn't mean that we get a chill on vampire movies, because I fucking love vampire movies. Last Voyage of the Demeter was fun, but also kind of flopped. I think there was a third one.
Well, honestly, all these movies are cool and have the budget and actors to spend on it, and fucking spent too much on it without another script pass.
Right. So
why is that the last thing anyone ever does?
I don't know. And we'll get to what we're talking about in a minute, because the first two acts of Abigail are fucking amazing, and then the third act.
Everyone that has been listening on Patreon for a while will know that this is a regular occurrence. But for you new people, we liked this movie, and it's going to sound like we didn't, which is a regular occurrence for us.
So, look, I feel like this is just the level, like the world we live in now in 2024. It's hard to. I don't know if it's an internet thing or what, but it's hard to not sound 100% for or against things. It's fucked up. I wanted said full stop at the top of this. Abigail's badass. That movie was a blast. I loved seeing it. It's fucking great. It does have real problems, and we're going to discuss them.
Honestly, first two acts, for me, flawless.
No notes.
The fact that it's kind of setting up a third act that doesn't happen.
Right.
Like because the idea of that these guys have kidnapped a child, and that child is a vampire.
Right.
So, and then the kid as the vampire, you immediately start to realize that this isn't just about feeding. This isn't just about like this is fun.
Well, so
for
there's
her.
there's layers that fall away in terms of what you think is happening, and then even what you think the double cross is a little bit.
Yes.
And I don't mean that in an up its ass twisty way. I just mean it's really fun that like
They have a fun way to reveal.
It starts out they think they are kidnapping a rich dude's kid for a ransom. Boom, full stop, easy peasy.
Right.
Then they figure out, oh my god, the rich guy whose daughter we've kidnapped is the Kaiser Soze
Yeah, I forget what the name they gave him.
ghoul that they're all fucking pants shittingly terrified of.
Mhm.
Dan Stevens' character's like, fucking him out.
Right.
Like, I love the most telling criminal thing I've ever heard. Split my take however you want, I'm out.
Right. And
like he goes from all about money to none about money.
Well, I mean, you can't spend money when you're dead.
Right. It's awesome. It's a great turn. It sells how scary the dad is. So that's the kind of second drop away. Then you start to find out that it's even crazier than that. Obviously, she's a vampire. You know that from the trailers. But the slow figuring out of like what is being done to them and what this house is about. I'm not saying it's the most mind-blowing twist on earth, but I really enjoyed.
They have a fun idea of like when they find the first body, they recognize like, oh man, I've heard of like this is the what's his name's a right-hand man assassin.
Right. Like,
really
and dude has a reputation for literally leaving bodies in pieces in rooms, like just torn apart like an animal. And so they're all like, holy crap.
And so you as an audience member are like, oh fuck, she's the assassin.
Yes.
Like she's the guy he sends because she's an immortal vampire.
Right.
Like, so if you're a criminal organization and you get to use a, like
granted, your immortal vampire is like a 10-year-old girl.
Right. But they do a good job of Abigail. Like at some point, I think Dan Stevens is like, okay, quit the little girl act. We both like. I gotta imagine you're older than any of us. Like all of us put together.
Right. Sorry, it's hard to not do.
Well, what's fun is that the first act. I saw a lot of people saying like, I wish they hadn't spoiled the reveal of her was a vampire, and I'm like, dude, that's what the movie's about.
That's the draw of the movie.
That's like no one's gonna go watch it if we don't know what that.
No, you needed to spoil that. And also, when I got to watching it, honestly, I see why they weren't afraid to show that in the trailer because there is a lot. There honestly is more to this story than that.
Well, it's fun because she gets to do like, my Dan Stevens came in here before, and he said that he worked for he said that he worked for my dad. He said his name was like, and it's like it tries to set him up that he's the assassin. And so there's a whole thing in the first act before she reveals herself where she kills a couple people and tries to get them to turn on each other.
Yeah.
And kind of like just to fuck with them.
And
like,
it's really fun.
And
she is just mean. She's
just mean.
Fucking with them.
Like just seeing if she can get them to turn on each other and like that. And when the jig is finally up.
Yeah.
You can see her make the choice at some point of like, okay, when she fucking cracks her fingers and gets out of the handcuffs.
Yeah, and just comes at them. Yeah.
Like, and starts to like, yeah, and she's one of those shark vampires.
Yeah, like it's all teeth.
Like 30 Days a Night vampire.
Yes,
yes. And this movie is bloody as fuck.
Oh my lord. Also, man, there's a moment where sunlight hit. Like, them trying to figure out what works is hilarious. All of the thieves are hilarious. Every single one of them. Kevin Durant, who steals every movie he's in. He's a national treasure. He plays this Montreal heavy that they've got on the gang.
Don't worry, Frank. She's not going to shoot me. Frank. I think she's going to shoot me. Frank, I misread this. She's going to shoot Frank.
He is absolutely great, but when they realize like, oh my god, so that girl's a vampire, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, because vampires
don't exist.
I'm not. And they're like, well, we need to discuss this. And he's like, I'm not having this discussion. That whole back and forth where she's like, I think Jessica Ruff says, all right, well, let's just list what do we know about vampires? They're not real.
Like, okay, I got one. Shut up, Pete. Honestly, his keeping like Joey pulls the gun on Dan Stevens and is like I think she's disgruntled with a part of the job. Like thank you for your input, Pete. Like that's a running joke of like thanks you for your input, Pete is always funny.
Yeah, because he's drunk and stupid. Oh man, everybody. I mean, the whole gang is hilarious. That thing's great. I don't know where they spent the full $30 million because we were discussing like did they spend too much on cast because I love this movie and it's having a hard time. It did not do well enough on its first weekend, at least according to the papers. Maybe it's made it up. I hope. But honestly, we saw The Beekeeper right after it, and it's 10 million more, and it has Statham in it. Like, how did the money get spent the same on these two movies? I'm not saying that the set on Abigail isn't awesome. This house is fucking sick. It is oh god, what was the Crimson Peak level? Like,
Yes.
when people talk about the nerd out on the house in Crimson Peak, that's how I felt watching Abigail. I don't know how they did, I don't know how much work they put in and how much was matte paintings or what, but it looks great.
It's like some of this takes them longer to figure out of like that. No, guys, the windows that came down, they're from the inside. Like the steel plating is from the inside.
This is to keep people in.
You're in a trap.
Yeah.
Like, you've been set up. You've been fucked. Like,
Yes.
this-
Yeah, it's very much a like, hey, you notice the direction the barbed wire's aimed? That tells you
Yes. Yes.
at the top of the fence. That tells you which direction they're keeping people out.
Yeah. And yeah, they have a lot of fun. There's the what was the girl from fucking Freaky,
Jessica Roth.
Freaky,
Yeah,
Friday, like,
yeah, Freaky, and Happy Death Day.
Yeah, Happy
No.
Death Days.
1 and 2.
Yeah, Tree.
That's
Like,
Tree.
that's a different. We just saw her in Boy.
That's why
Boy
I'm thinking
Kills
of her. We
World.
just saw her in Boy Kills World.
No, this is the other.
This is
blonde.
the other. Yes.
Yeah, they have a fun. Her and Kevin Durant's relationship is fun. She gets gets a lot of lines of Melissa. What's her name?
Catherine Newton is her name. Yeah,
Right.
she plays Sammy. She's fucking awesome.
And Joey is played by the chick from
Melissa Barrera.
the other girl that isn't Jenny Ortega from the Scream movies.
Of course, Dan Stevens is Frank, who's an ex-cop and a piece of shit.
And honestly, like
Angus Cloud. This was his final movie, I believe.
yes,
from your
I forgot he's in it.
Euphoria.
He's not in it for very long.
No,
but
that- He always looks like Mac Miller to me. I can't be the only person who thinks
yeah.
that. But
Well, they also have another guy like the Black Sniper, and he gets basically
Rickles.
Don
Don Rickles.
Rickles.
I love that he names them all after Rat Pack. Kevin Durant gets that like 30
Peter,
minutes later.
like, oh, I get it. Pack of rats
Because of the Rat
because
Pack.
of the Rat Pack. Thank you for your input, Peter.
Mhm. Man, and talking about watching The Offer, that's Matthew Good as the dad.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. Yes,
Am I remembering right? He's
I think so.
yeah, that's Bob Evans,
Yes.
baby.
Bubby, I'm a fucking vampire now.
He's also
What's
Ozymandias in
the deal? What's
movie Watchmen.
That's right. So yeah, the first two acts, really solid stuff, real fun stuff. They keep on revealing stuff about characters. Like Joey has a scene where she basically gets it's a fun cheap dialogue scene of getting exposition about your characters.
Yeah,
They make it a bar trick.
she's
of,
gonna
like,
cold read everybody.
I'm gonna cold read things about you, and I'm like, God damn it, this is simultaneous. Like,
I know the cheat you're doing, and
I
it's
know the
also
shit
working.
you're doing, but I respect it. I respect it.
And then they flip it around on her.
They flip it around on her
otherwise
because Dan Stevens like, oh, I can tell a cop, and I'm like, well, yeah, a cop can tell a junkie too, you piece of shit. Like,
yeah, and like you can see it's true, and yeah, it's a great quick reveal. But then they keep dropping a little bit deeper stuff with all of them, and it's
well,
really
it turns out like Dan Stevens used to be a cop that was undercover chasing this guy, and then got into the undercover life and liked it a little too much. He reveals that he left his family. She's trying to get back to her kid. There's a great reflective scene there where she tells,
well, it's just
Sammy,
so hard to go back to.
Like, I can't like go back there. And Dan Stevens has a great comeback line of like, boo hoo. Like, you like don't pretend like the difference between us. Like, we both went going back because you're deathly afraid of being bad. Like, go suck it up, go back and be a mother to that kid,
or stop complaining about this,
or stop bitching.
Yeah.
Like don't.
No, but he's just like, no, just
don't be this martyr for yourself that like, oh, I'm not in my kid's life because that's what's best for them. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like,
we just watched The Rookie where Tim breaks up with her for her. Like, I'm dumping you as a favor to you. Fuck you, man. Stop doing
that.
Yeah.
Don't do me any fucking favors.
So I don't have a dad because you're doing me a favor. Fuck off.
So where this movie actually falls down for me is the fact that Dan Stevens is too good of a character in the first two acts.
He's smart.
He's not only is he smart, he's nuanced.
Right. He's not just straight up evil.
He feels scummy and shifty, but when push comes to shove, he's kind of on their side
Mhm.
and a good person to be in your corner. Like, to the point where that scene where she's like, go be a mother to that kid. I'm like, oh, wow, I did not expect that to come out from him.
That's a terrible way to put it, but you're right.
But he's right. Like, but he's a douchebag of a character that is right. Like, you hate that he's right, but he's right.
And then he becomes a vampire.
Well, then, like, they go into obviously it's a trap, and then Dan Stevens goes, yeah, but
What else?
are we gonna do? And I'm like, man, at that point, I was like, man, Dan Stevens might be my favorite part of this movie. And because of the trailers, we were spoiled on what happens to him.
Yeah, there's a moment in the trailer where you can see him with teeth.
And because early in the movie, he gets bit by Abigail. When they first
and that's
kidnap
what
her,
I thought was doing it.
when they first kidnap her, he goes like, ah, shit, and like,
And he's
"Bitch
got a
bit me."
bite on his
He's
hand.
got a bite in his hand, and as an audience member, you're like, all
That
right,
clock's
here we
ticking.
go.
I was waiting the whole movie for him to be on their side, and at the linchpin moment, him turn.
Right. And
But
be
nope.
a thrall to her.
That bite never matters. That hand bite never matters. He
There's
gets
a
bit
cou-
again.
There's a couple things in this movie's first and second act that don't matter.
Right, and it's weird because the rest of the movie's so meticulous.
Yes, the rest, like, there's the sniper guy. I get that his character didn't matter, but they make some hay out of his sniper rifle and his gun. Like, his gun's like where they are. Like, oh, someone took my gun, and I'm like, okay, she took the gun because obviously that gun might work on her. Then,
Right.
Like, that might be important later. Like, you're because they have so fun dishing out information. You're trying to figure out like why she's, like, maybe that gun's big enough, caliber enough to shoot through a wall.
Yeah.
And
Who
that could fuck her up.
But it never comes back up.
Nope.
Not a thing. His bite is not a thing.
They
and-
pretend like it didn't happen. It's
no,
so
it
weird.
Simply doesn't, it simply didn't happen. And then the big third act moment of showing that she's got a thrall vampire.
Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie for seemingly no reason. Like,
That's a lot of actor to get for no reason.
His role is pointless.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be there. It could all be done with an anonymous phone call that Abigail could reveal that, like, oh, do you mean the guy that got you all together, and then does the voice on a thing?
And then this is what we mean by, like, how is there? You guys I feel like this movie overspent because there was not a pass done. Because this character should have been consolidated in or cut. There was a cleaner way to do this plot and get all the same fun moments,
right?
And save yourself some budget
and
time.
And you've oversold me on Dan Stevens as a nuanced character.
That's the other half, the other shoe that falls. So Esposito turns that is a fun betrayal. Like, he turns Dan Stevens and like, help me, we're gonna kill her. She's a fucking bitch. We can be free and be vampires. And Dan Stevens lets him turn him and then kills him because, fuck you for trapping me here.
Yeah,
you're the reason I'm here tonight.
Yeah, you're the reason I'm like.
That was hilarious and amazing, and I loved it. And that's the last smart, cool thing Dan Stevens does. From that moment forward, he's a
cartoon
scenery
villain.
Chewing Montgomery Burns fingers tinted villain.
Yeah.
Like, his head tilts 5 degrees too far and he's fucking crazy.
And all of a sudden he's too powerful for this other. I don't care that she is a child. She's been a vampire for, like, I don't know, 1,000 years.
Right. Hundreds of years at
So
least. And he's been a vampire for a night.
what,
And it
5
comes
minutes?
up later that, like, hey, you don't know how to do some of your shit.
Yeah.
Like, it is a thing. But he is absolutely pound for pound going to, like, just toe to toe with her.
Yeah, well, not only that, she needs to team up with Joey at the end.
Right.
And I get, okay,
and
so
that's a wonderful moment. That's a cool moment. But
the pinky swear thing, like, because she shows up with the pinky swear thing earlier.
I was actually mad at work because I was so mad at what was going on, and then the pinky swear moment works.
So there's some things in this movie that are easily like, okay, so there's some things that we set up in the first act, and we changed how we got there, though.
Right.
The bite in the beginning makes me think that was a part in a script that didn't get changed and somehow made it all the way into the editing room and didn't get chopped.
Right.
And there's a version of this movie that doesn't have Giancarlo Esposito, and he just turns because he got bit in the beginning.
Which is all you need to happen. And because there's also, she turns one of the what's her name, Charlie, into the thralls. And honestly, that was another point in the second act where, like, a lot of dancing in this movie because
I guess both these actresses can dance, and we're doing this.
Well, she's a ballerina and she's thralling somebody, but like we get it. But also, it is fun watching her dance in the the feathered sunlight because she smokes the entire time.
Yeah.
To me, this movie does make a lot of fucking awesome choices. We just went through a lot of bad choices.
Right.
It does make a lot of awesome choices. The way sunlight affects them when they're trying to figure out what really works and doesn't.
I love that most shit doesn't work at all.
Right.
But then when the things that do
The
work,
cross, she just
really
laughs off.
works.
The garlic, she just laughs off.
I mean, she just stabs Kevin Durant with that fucking...
Yeah, like 20 times with that cross.
Well, I mean, that was a great part in the... When they first gear up and they
Mhm.
go like, okay, let's go kill us a fucking vampire. Again, Dan Stevens being fantastic. And the Joey's just like, I don't think that's a great idea.
Right.
And basically they have to come back all fucked up and like, don't say anything.
Right. Yeah, because they just get it handed to them. It's fucking hilarious. But the thing that does work is sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
And it hits like a lead slug in a shotgun. Like a single beam of sunlight hits her hand and her hand explodes.
Honestly, and they should have kept that so it could sold why Dan Stevens has an upper hand on her, pun intended.
Literally. But yes, that's when she would have needed honestly, you can talk about milking that for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Have her reach up with the hand and go pinky. Oh,
other one.
Other hand.
Other one. Yeah.
Like,
so the movie obviously like, okay, this was part of the script from the beginning. Like that wasn't a last minute addition because of the pinky swear thing. I'm like, okay, so this movie was always going to get to the point where we needed to team up with Abigail, and Joey and her were going to team up because of the kid swap thing.
Right.
And the kid thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. The way they get here is by like, honestly, Dan Stevens became part of the movie at some point. And I feel like either he brought something to that role that honestly is too much stick.
Right. I can't tell if Stevens just brought too much to the first two acts, or if
he makes the first two acts, but also he's what breaks the third. Because now his character it's not even as that his character he's a different character. He's not the same person. He's not smart anymore. He's not
just mean.
He's just mean. He's not even mean in the same way though.
No,
because before he was mean. He was shitty.
It's
shifty.
It is an Angel to Angelus.
Yes,
thing.
flip. Like, and he becomes unbelievably stupid. Like he does not end fights that could easily be ended. He fails to drain Abigail like twice. Even after
being told
that's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought that, dude, if we need to team up with a vampire at the end of this, shouldn't we team up with Dan Stevens? He's been the one we've been teaming up with so far.
Right.
And he's shady, but also at that point, like, I'm not getting out of this thing alive. Maybe you can. I'll become a vampire. And like,
man, I would have ended it with the three of them as a family unit helping Abigail kill the father vampire.
Sure. Like, let's say, in a deal to get it. Because I do like the fact that when the father vampire shows up, it's kind of like on an honor system of like, hey, she helped me out. Let her go, because Joey gets to like leave because she helps out Abigail at the end. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna forget that Abigail is also a straight up monster.
A monster.
Like,
a complete monster.
Like sure, she helped you out, but only because it was the only way she was getting out of this.
I do love Joey in it's a great movie ending to have Joey in complete shock, covered in blood.
Putting that sucker in her mouth.
Put the sucker in her mouth and like slowly shocked walk out of the house.
It has some Ready or Not.
Get in the car. Yeah.
Cigarette.
Get in the truck and drive a van and drive away.
Fucking in-laws.
Oh my God. Yeah, loved it. Loved it.
And I'm like, why? All of a sudden, things go out of the window that they were setting up, and honestly, like they do sell most of what they need to sell. It's not like they don't, like the Abigail's dad isn't there for her, so it sells like Joey's relationship with her of like, oh, okay, you're a better mom than my dad is to me. Honestly, then why isn't the dad figure a mother figure then? Like, why isn't it a mother vampire? To really, if we're gonna sell the
if you're really
sell the
metaphor, yeah.
But why it's not? And I figured this movie was under the working title Dracula's Daughter for a long time. Apparently, it was going to be a slight remake of another movie called Dracula's Daughter.
Oh, this is better than that.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, so that didn't get changed from that point in the script. I'm wondering, Joey probably was a man at some point.
Probably
talking about his kid, and it was a father allegory, and that got swapped. But There's a bunch of this movie that obviously got changed in the script, and they swapped one thing without swapping corresponding.
It feels like an unfinished revision a lot of times. Like there's just like artifacts left from previous stuff is what it feels like. It's got a Demeter vibe. Which is that the curse of the vampire movies now?
I don't know. I feel like it's a curse of a movie that like we're willing to do so much. Like we're gonna the house is great. They throw enough blood on it. The actors are amazing. They do everything except for that. The script isn't tight.
Right. I think everybody's afraid. I don't know, man. Maybe are people just afraid to think through the story? I don't get this.
Why? But we've the last 2 years.
But I know it can happen. It happens a lot.
It's been throughout. I think longer than that. But seriously, the last 2 years less. Everything we've watched, I'm like, why is the script
the last? A dick about it now.
Why is the script the last thing anyone kind of thinks about?
Right. Like or am I wrong? Like it. Are there a lot of things that can happen in production that end up feeling like story problems but aren't? Because it sure feels like that this was that the foundation of this house isn't stable.
Some of this is obvious. Like just in the editing room, cut the scene where she treats his hand for the bite.
Right.
Then it won't be confusing.
Right. Just cut the makeup of you paid someone to put that bite on him.
Yeah.
Just don't do the makeup of it. Yeah. Anyway.
Like or don't you don't shoot it in the first place because that's sloppy.
Right.
If you don't know you're gonna.
Right.
If you don't know you're not going to do that.
Just don't have props, bring a gun, check off.
But if you realize you've done it in the editing bay, like, oh shit, I've set this up and now it feels like
cut that fucking line.
Then cut it. Like it's so weird. But also, like I said, up until the way we get there is Abigail is a great monster. Abigail's a great vampire that I haven't seen in a while as far as loving being a vampire, really into
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's disappointed that her dad has stopped paying attention to her over whatever,
there's a
500 years.
There's a moment in the like where the movie starts to fall down is where they drug her. There's a moment in the movie they drug her and they put her in the elevator. And the movie says it's because they want to make a deal so they can get out from under what's his name's thumb.
Right.
Because now they realize
the Mr. Body of it.
He's a vampire and a criminal, runs a criminal empire.
Kaiser. And this is Kaiser's like all of them are there to be killed.
So they don't want to kill his daughter. Like, okay, maybe we can get out of this. But honestly, that at that point in the movie, it does not sell to me that not one of them would try and like when she's unconscious, like stake this.
No,
bitch.
she's already straight up terrifying at this point. They should have staked her right then.
But that scene is also great. Her in the elevator and her like basically that whole scene of. We see it later that she could have gotten out of that.
This
is
Superman in handcuffs. She could have got out of that.
But she's having while I'm here,
she almost gets them to shoot each other. It's hilarious.
Kevin Durant almost.
She's a fantastic villain. She's scary, tiny, smart, vicious, teethy, all of it. It's wonderful.
And for the having a blast doing it to the point where they oversold her character as the same way they oversell Dan Stevens as a complex, nuanced character, they oversell Abigail as a straight up monster.
Right.
To the point where teaming up with her at the end,
later when I'm supposed to kind of feel bad for her, it's hard.
I guess I'm supposed to feel like we did the right thing by teaming up with her because she's the child.
And I feel like they got worried and they oversold it each direction because and
I'm telling you,
we need to team up with the monster and we need to hate Dan Stevens more.
Yeah.
And Dan Stevens was like, got it, boss.
Yeah. And they have to overclock it so that you hate Dan Stevens enough to team up with Abigail because I'm like, dude, Abigail is like, no, I fucking kill her.
If you want to go with the exact same ending of Joey walking outside, Ready or Not style, covered in blood, getting in the van and leaving, have the movie end with Stevens and Abigail killing each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
They both explode. She's standing there covered in vampire blood. Excuse me.
And then
walk out and get in the van and drive away, and the dad pull up as she's leaving or something,
Sure. Or have her be the new vampire. She almost gets away, but sorry, but I need a new assassin.
She gets to the van, the sun's coming up, her hand starts to smoke, she looks up her arm and there's a bite.
Yeah, yes.
And she has to run back inside.
Fuck. Yes, that's good stuff.
That's how I ended it.
Yes.
So I just don't think the third act was as good as the first two, but that is not a reason to not go see this movie. It is fucking fun. If you want to see vampires just bloody as shit fight each other, it's hilarious. I love the genre of you idiots broke into the wrong house.
Yes.
As we have seen demonstrated in multiple movies, even when they're terrible.
Even when they're bad,
This
it's a
might
great
be
premise.
the best. This is one of the best in that genre, and it's one of the most fun vampire movies in years.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't had like the only stiff competition has come up lately, and they've all been kind of wishy-washy. Like
Demeter's more period piece than this. This is maniacally fun. This reminded me of Ready or Not. Ready or Not's flawless.
it has a more.
This is the same director as Ready or Not, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yes, that
and
explains
it
a lot.
It has a very similar.
That
feel.
explains a lot.
Yes, it has a very similar feel on that end of it, and I feel like Ready or Not is unbelievably tight.
It is perfect.
Like in a script.
Love
way.
that movie. Love that fucking
That this movie is loosey goosey with what it's doing by the end of it.
It's expensive winsome. But go check it out, Abigail. It's got at least one thumbs up.
Yes. The other one exploded in some sunlight.
Yeah, it exploded. Some sunlight. And until next time.
Thanks for your input, Peter.
What can I say? I like playing with my food.
Whoa! She's fucking flying!
I fucking hate ballet.